Hi. When I was in grade school, I was a smart kid. I was book smart anyway. I tested well. My dad told me, trying to bring me down a notch, "You're smart, but you got no common sense." At another time he said, "It's not what you know, it's who. So have a care for your relationships." Which turned out to be pretty good advice. Because really, how much of our grade school learning really affects our day-to-day life more than our relationships do? Not much. But anyway, I was lucky to be smart. And because I didn't have a mom at home, I had to go to school early and come home late, which meant that I got to help the teachers prepare materials, grade papers, and other things that made me teacher's pet. I was the highest scoring boy in all my classes. In our grade school, I don't know how it works elsewhere, but in our grade school, you stayed with the same group of kids all the way from first grade to sixth grade. And so you knew everybody. It was like a family. And of course, as in most families, there's sibling rivalries, competitions. There was a girl by the name of Debbie Dunning, who was the highest scoring girl in the class. And it developed into a competition over the years. All the kids wanted to know who got the highest score on the latest test, quiz, Marty or Debbie? And as we got older, boys started competing with the girls. And it was like I was the team leader for the boys, and Debbie was the team leader for the girls. The boys were always rooting for me to beat Debbie, and vice versa. And then, in 5th grade, a few of us started to hit puberty, and there was a little more dynamic between the boys and the girls. And I sensed that in order to be more popular, I had to win Debbie over. A little too early for dating and obviously for sex, but not that I was interested in sex. But I knew that if I could brag of having gotten Debbie as my girlfriend, that it would that my star would rise in elementary school. So I found a reason. Her mother was the president of the PTA, and so I found an excuse to deliver some paper signed by my dad or something to her house. And I rode my bicycle over there. I remember playing my little transistor radio that my grandfather had bought me. playing, and I remember as I was writing over it, I don't know why I remember this, but the song, "You're Just Too Good to Be True."
Oh.
Can't take my eyes.
Mm.
And you feel like heaven to touch. Anyway, I can't sing. That sort of became what I associated with Debbie. Like I was gonna woo her. And I got to her house, and her mother invited me in. Score, right? And she asked me if I wanted to stay for milk and cookies. She called Debbie downstairs, and we had milk and cookies together. And boy, did I boast and brag. All the boys were like hooting and hollering, and woo, you got her, you know, Marty and Debbie sitting in the tree, you know, that whole thing. And Debbie, she played it coy. She didn't complain, but she didn't like. She wasn't going to cut me any slack. We still had the competition going. At the end of sixth grade, or end of fifth grade, Debbie's family moved away. They moved a huge distance, not 10 miles south. But, you know, when you're riding a little Schwinn Stingray bicycle,
Yeah.
10 miles may as well be, you know, the next state. But Debbie and I became pen pals. We continued to write to each other, and I could use that for boasting and bragging, and I could call her my girlfriend for whatever that meant at that age. But toward the end of, so that was during sixth grade. I was 11 years old, and toward the end of the year, she stopped writing for quite a while, over a month. And when I finally did get a letter from her, she just had nothing good to say. Not really. And she ended her letter, and she was one of those girls who, you know, little circles over all the eyes, and you know, not hearts, but circles. You know, and she used sealing wax on the letters, so I had to use sealing wax, of course. Couldn't be outdone by her. But in that last letter, and the last thing she said in it was, "God, you're a femme, Marty." See, this, in those days, the word fag didn't exist in mainstream America. People really didn't even have a concept of homosexuality because such things weren't talked about at all. Most people didn't. I don't think it was on anybody's radar. So that was probably the most hurtful thing she could think of to say. And being the sensitive little boy that I was, I wrote to her mother and told her what her daughter had said to me. Because I wanted Debbie to get in trouble. Because that was mean. Never heard anything from Debbie or her mother about that. But it instilled in me a certain knowledge that the worst thing a boy could be was effeminate. And it just so happened that just a couple of weeks, maybe, after I received that letter from her, a little event took place at a bar called the Stonewall Inn in New York City. Now, that wasn't on anybody's radar either outside of New York. It didn't really make the news outside of New York. And even if it had been interesting to people outside of New York, the news outlets of that day would not really know how to report on it outside of New York. So I wasn't aware of it as I started junior high school. But junior high was a whole new experience. When I was 12 years old, 7th grade, sometime during my first year in junior high, I wrote a poem. My first poem. What's something like this? Little boy, run and play. Goes to school, gets an A. Teacher's pet, does not fight. Grandma says, he's so bright. All is fine till one day. Boys play football. He can't play. In the shower, stand and stare. All the boys are naked there. There is one thing, not a toy, that he loves. It's a boy. A feeling that he can't defend. That boy is his only friend. Might you love a boy like this? It's too late. He's cut his wrists. That was my 12-year-old poem. All through junior high, the word fag still didn't exist in the common vernacular. But I had learned from Debbie and in subsequent interactions with my peers that the worst thing a boy could be was effeminate. So I made sure to butch it up at every opportunity. Still couldn't play sports. For junior high, that didn't really matter so much. I could swim. That was okay. But when I got to high school, well, actually, I was able, because the locker rooms were a traumatic experience, I was able to, I found a way of getting out of PE, and that was by volunteering, or, I mean, you could call it auditioning, but it was volunteering to be the boy in the lead role of the school play. And I say volunteering rather than auditioning because they couldn't find any boys who wanted to do that. There was no such thing as drama kids back then. Because whatever other gay boys there were, they had learned the lesson too, that you just can't be effeminate. So theater wasn't a draw. So I got to high school, and my dad remarried, and we moved to a new neighborhood, and the school was only 4 years old, and there were no established cliques or gangs or any other similar threat. And so I was able to feel good. I didn't have to worry about the names. But I had learned that the best way not to get beat up in junior high, a lesson I carried with me, especially for the rest of my life, was to not be effeminate. So I auditioned. Well, actually, I went off the track first because I couldn't do, contact sports. I couldn't throw, couldn't catch, stereotypical people. But I did join the cross-country track teams because I knew how to run away. I was good at that. So I was able to get a letter jacket in track. And of course, nobody had to know that it was track. I just got to walk around school in a letter jacket, which was great. But then I auditioned for the quintessential macho role of Brad Allen in Pillow Talk. A ladies' man, a womanizer, kind of a jerk by today's standards, but it had to be the most macho role I could go out for because it was played by Rock Hudson and Doris Day. Ironic, isn't it? That in order to not be known as gay, I modeled myself after Rock Hudson. So I learned with my literary interests and being a word geek, I learned the importance of language. And while I had a pretty good time of it in high school, I was freshman class president, and I had my letter jacket, and I was the first underclassman to be student body vice president. I was actually the first underclassman to get the lead role in the school play. So I was in, because I was the smart kid, I was in this class called Letters and Science Seminar, not of my own choosing. It was for the smart kids, where we got to choose our own projects and be graded on them. And we could do any project we wanted. So my first one was like, I was learning Hebrew from a Jewish girl in the class who taught me Hebrew. She got graded on teaching, and I got graded on learning. But when I finally came out to the first person, it was a girl who was interested in me. And one night we sat up till 6 o'clock in the morning, and she finally had to ask why I wasn't responding to her. And I broke down in tears and told her, and I couldn't look her in the eye for hours, literally for hours. I remember sitting in the beanbag chair in our family room in the basement with my head down, crying, not able to look her in the eye when I came out to her. But she was so accepting and loving, and she knew this guy in college that was gay. And he went to the Gay Student Union at Stanford, and they had a support group for gay kids and whatever. And I thought, wow, really? So I started going to the library and researching what it meant to be gay. And that's when I first understood what happened at Stonewall. But I also realized, reading the news reports out of New York,
time, that what was most salacious to them and what was most offensive to them was not the sexuality or sexual orientation of the men involved, but the fact that it was drag queens who revolted and were revolting to them. Again, it was the femininity of supposed men that was the problem. So when I came out, I butched it up even more. I made sure that nobody ever thought I wanted to be a woman, that nobody ever saw me as effeminate, nobody ever thought of me as a drag queen. And it was something I just assimilated into my persona. I was out and proud, and my second project in the Letters in Science seminar class was coming out. My poem, and I wrote up a story of my whole journey to that point, and I invited speakers from the Gay Student Union at Stanford, where I had been attending, to come speak to the class as part of my project. Well, I got a call from the principal. Well, actually, I got a call from the principal, who had gotten a call from the district superintendent, because a mother of one of the boys in the class had heard about my project and complained. And they said that I couldn't bring the Gay Student Union speakers on campus, but I could say anything I wanted. So I got up there and I told my story. And I came out. I was out and proud. And I was lucky because there was that little window of time after Stonewall where information was available to me by gay authors telling me who I was and what it was about and that there were others like me. I got all of that through diligent study at the library, books and articles that probably nobody else ever checked out. But it was before the media was willing to cover such disgraceful things. And before, so mainstream America wasn't wise to it. They didn't know. There was no religious right threatening us with hell. I had that window of opportunity. And I'm thankful for that. But I didn't realize until many years later how I had, when I was living in San Francisco, I lived there for 15 years. I grew up just 50 miles south of there. That I had a prejudice against effeminate men, against drag queens. Because they were giving us a bad name. They were the ones that straight men were upset about, and the ones that would, they were the ones getting beaten up. They were the ones that stood up to the police at Stonewall because they were tired of being harassed and beaten up. They were the true heroes. But I despised them because they made me look bad. People might think I'm like that. They might think I'm effeminate. They might think I want to dress in women's clothing. And it took me a long time to really understand that. But as I did, and as I became a writer, and words became more important, I realized, you know, our language is rife with misogyny. It occurred to me that almost any denigrating thing you could say to someone was based on the straight male's opinion of a woman as lesser, inferior. Fuck you. Okay? Back in the day, men and women didn't fuck each other. Men fucked women. There was a fucker and a fucky. Okay? So to say fuck you was to say, take my cock. Be dominated by me. So when men used that with other men, they were saying, be my bitch. Be my woman. Fuck you. Okay? That sucks. Who sucks? Women suck. Men. Women suck men. That's what straight men want. So therefore, if a man sucks a man, he's denigrated because he's like a woman. So when you say something sucks, you're putting down women and gay men. And when you say fuck you, you're putting down women and gay men. And all the other varieties of it, you know, eat my shorts. Or, you know, bend over and take it. All of that. It's misogynistic as much as it's homophobic. And until I started writing novels and publishing, I never said, fuck you, to anybody, ever. I never used the word fuck. My husband, I think in 26 years of marriage, I think I've heard him use that word like twice. Like when you hit your thumb with a hammer and you can't help it. Right? Hasn't been part of my life, part of my vocabulary, until I became a writer and I needed to start using it. And then as an actor, I needed to use it. But every time I do, I think back to its origins. So, I have never dressed as a woman before except for comedic effect. This is only the third time in 30 years that I have been clean shaven. So every other time that I have dressed as a woman, I still had a beard or a mustache or facial hair. So it was what's called genderfuck. You're playing with it for comedic effect. You're not trying to appear as a woman. That's why for this I had to shave. Because this was not meant to be comedic. As ridiculous as I know I look, as ugly a woman as I appear to be, this is the first time I have ever presented as a woman to anybody, even to myself. I haven't even looked myself in the mirror yet, except my face. So, this has been terrifying for me, and I almost backed out of it multiple times. And the fact that it kept getting postponed gave me more opportunities to back out. But I realized that if I did, I'd have to find something else to do, and it would probably require a scene partner, and there was no time to prepare, no time to plan. So here I am. This is what you get. Thank you.
Oh, I said the word. There it is. Shit. How about shit? Can we go with that one? Marty, how do you feel right now?
Relieved that it's over and terrified about what I look like.
Oh God, really?
Yeah?
Really? It's not even a thought to me. Like it's funny, right? Because I see Marty's soul. It's like whatever Marty looks on the outside, what he wears doesn't irrelevant. Like what you are bringing is your, again, it's like another example, like fucking brave, courageous, truthful, honest, funny. I mean, you didn't want to, but not funny the way you look, but in your storytelling, brilliant storytelling, totally pictured, what's her name?
Becky Dunning.
God, she was awesome. I mean, just all of
Long,
it.
straight blonde hair.
Oh, really? I've
She'd
got the
be-
perfect wig.
Yeah, she's probably a model today.
Oh, God. Yeah, okay. Anyway, it resonated, there's just so much of you in this that I couldn't love it more, Marty. And again, I mean, this is a piece that you could do something with. Like, I was learning stuff, I was like, especially from
Don't
the...
make me. Like what you said at the beginning of class, like
What? No,
once
no,
we
you're
go, once we
fine.
go there, you're going to hold us to it.
No, but
I
I'm
was
just
thinking
saying-
of this when you said that.
Yes,
No.
No, I just say it because it's an education for people that weren't raised up in that generation. Like, really, actually, I was thinking about it. I don't know if you're age and you don't have to divulge it, but I was like, I was sort of a little bit past, just slightly past, or I think just slightly, maybe a little bit younger than you, but
I'm 61.
okay, so I'm 53. So it was still.
So
like,
Debbie
I
Downing was
coming-
50 years ago.
Right, so there you go. I was coming up in the 70s where it was starting to, you know, but yeah, you were still in that era where, as in elementary school, and the Rock Hudson thing, like for those of you, I know that there's probably some of you that don't know who Rock Hudson is.
I didn't get that reference.
So,
Wow.
okay, that's what I mean, but that's what I mean, and
I
so.
was like-
But I mean, he's a classic movie star, so I thought you'd get
Rock
it because.
So Rock Hudson was the heartthrob,
Heartthrob.
the Brad Pitt of
Yes,
this era.
exactly.
I mean, he was
Okay.
stunning.
He was
And
the Brad Pitt of the 50s and 60s.
He was the Brad Pitt of the 50s and 60s, and then did he finally come out? Or
Well,
got
he didn't.
AIDS.
He got AIDS.
He got
and
AIDS.
He couldn't keep it a secret
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Didn't
Okay.
he?
I
Didn't
couldn't-
Hollywood arrange a marriage for him?
Did they?
Was that?
He might
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was always, you know, he was
Beard.
with all the starlets, and I mean, he was absolutely stunning. Look him up. He was one of the biggest stars of that time. It's like Rock Hudson, like, oh, you look like Rock. You know, Rock Hudson was the
Mhm.
guy like Cary Grant was before him.
Right.
And
Right.
so, look up Cary Grant if you don't know who he is, please.
I'm
Oh
so
my
old.
God.
And Errol Flynn, if you're going to go back
yes,
further.
Errol
I know
Flynn.
who Errol
I had a
is.
crush on
That
Errol
sounds
Flynn when I was a
familiar.
kid.
But Marty, this is a work of art. It really is, like, not only your storytelling, but the way you tell a story is so cool. Like, I was so with you on it, and you're you know, there's so much pain, but then you have this little dollop of humor and irony, you know, and the precision of doing the makeup. I loved that you were just so precisely doing yourself up. But I know you know, right now you go, I don't want to ever do this again. I don't know, but all I know is it's a gift. It was a gift for us, and I hope that you feel some sense of like, you know, release or surrender or something. But and I also was like, fuck, brave to say I have a thing against, or I've had a thing against openly effeminate, in particular, men.
Yeah.
I do know other gay men that feel that way, actually.
I do too.
And it's like, you know, the Jews that hate Jews, or you know, but there's lots of varieties of that kind of thing. And so, but I thought, fucking good for you, Marty, to like put it out there. That you have, that's been something in your past, or current, or who knows, but you're not alone. Like, when you're so up there raw and honest, as we've seen every single person tonight, it only like, that's art right there. That's what like gets us to go, ding, oh, I'm gonna look at that differently. Ding, I felt something there. Ding, I have more compassion now, you know? And to me, that's this is the baseline, what everyone's doing tonight, is like the core of why we do this. And you could take that, or not, but you could take it and have it evolve into something. Because you know, from that specific era, because it wasn't, you know, it's interesting, like you said, but then there was like, the awareness was starting to come up, and you were in the Bay Area, and